Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Black Sheep Podcast. I'm your host, Toshiba Smallwood. And if you haven't had an opportunity to check us out on all our social media platforms, please get over on all our social media platforms. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Guys, we would love to hear from you. And if you would like to come on our podcast or if you would like the Black Sheep to come to a city near you, be sure to DM us or email us at theblacksheep@gmail.com. My bad. So, guys, we got a new guest today. Longtime friend as well, great supporter as well. She has her own nonprofit with Real Life. She's known well in the LGBT community. Miss Amanda Robinson. What's going on, man? How you doing?
What's going on?
Listen, thank you for coming on here and supporting. And you've actually been very supportive behind the scenes, and I definitely appreciate all your insight and just supporting and pushing what we're trying to do here on Black Sheep. I definitely appreciate that. I wanted to kind of shift today about our isolation and our silence and the things that silence us. And one thing that I saw on your social media this time was the grief that you were dealing with, the loss of your mother. You had lost a couple loved ones this year. You've
Yes,
took it to the gut a little bit.
big time.
And as I began to just monitor you and just watch you and just try to have inspirational conversations with you and just encourage you. I noticed that you was dealing with a significant amount of silence. You just really wouldn't talk about a lot of stuff, but I felt your pain, right? And we've actually been on the phone and we've
Right,
cried and we've prayed and we've did
right.
all the things that we can do. And so I appreciate you want to come out here and just kind of talk about your experience with silence. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Silence is loud, believe it or not. Very loud. Um, experienced a lot of death this year. I lost my dad first.
Mm,
Nine, maybe 10 months after, lost my mom.
yeah,
As of maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, the week of Thanksgiving, lost my spiritual godmother.
yeah,
So it has definitely been a year of orphanage for me.
yeah, yeah.
So anything that I knew paternal or motherly or that gave you that sense of comfort.
Hmm.
I only have one other sibling outside of my parents, and
Yes, when he's fine. You know what? That's my boo. Make sure you see that.
yes, yes, yes. So I only have one other sibling,
Mhm,
and he's in New York, so we live apart. And my grandmother, my dad's mom, is still living, and I have an uncle.
mhm.
But outside of, and, my mom has sisters and stuff, but it's still not the same.
Right.
Nobody ever replaced
Hmm.
the parental
Yeah.
figure in your life. It doesn't matter. And so after the services, that's when the silence
Yeah.
comes,
Yeah.
for sure.
And grief is around this time of the year, guys, grief hits
Yes.
hard for a lot of people. And one thing we won't even realize if we're not careful. We'll begin to put ourselves in this dark hole
Yeah.
behind our loved ones that we lose, and we'll begin to isolate ourselves and things of that nature, and all the things that we probably shouldn't do that we do because for us that's a safe place for us. But we want to create a different type of safe space where we can talk about it and we can laugh about it and we can live through the great times, the great memories and things of that nature. Um, could you explain to us how you've been feeling in your silence?
Very alone. Very alone. Um, because if you haven't, it feels as though if you aren't physically going through what I've gone through or am going through, then you don't get it and you wouldn't understand it. And so, in my head, a lot, I feel like I'm the only one on the island
Mm,
that that understands my emotional space, and that's from the days of not wanting to get up and move around,
yeah.
trying to be motivated about life, motivated with work, giving back. As you just said, I do a whole lot and have done a whole lot. And I already personally had some mental things that I was dealing with anyway, from depression to PTSD. And so then when I add another layer of grief on top of that, the silence has become even louder.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think it's definitely important to talk about support and spaces
Mhm.
like you've been able to do for me. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily have that support system, but I think it's important to reach out.
Right. And I know I get on your nerves. I probably call you 100 times a day. Okay, that's not a day, and then I get mad when she don't answer. Okay, yeah. Have you had something happen to you where you've chosen someone that you want to talk to, and they're just not receiving it? How did you take that?
Again, no understanding. The biggest thing is everything starts, life picks up and moves when
Yeah.
death happens.
Mhm.
And everybody and everything around you has to get back to their sense of normalcy.
Mhm.
But for me, my world stopped.
Yeah.
Um, I was a caretaker for my mother, so my everything stopped. And 2 weeks that the job gives you to take off was not enough time. I needed my family around me more.
Mhm.
I needed that distraction of
Yeah.
people
Mhm.
more. And but life continues to life,
Yeah.
and you just stuck. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of. I think I posted a post earlier this week that I said I just feel stuck here in grief.
Yeah.
It's like you moved to another town and nobody's there but you.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I've attempted to talk about it, but it's still, again, it's one of those things that and again, counseling, I've attempted.
Right.
And even in my post, I said there's no words currently that can fix how I feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
So grief is one of those things that you just got to sit with it
Yeah.
and feel what you feel when you feel it.
Yeah. And so when we talk about distractions, I've actually been making a conscious effort to annoy her. Okay. To keep her busy. I felt like it was very important. I remember having conversations with you, like just trying to motivate you, like,
Right.
listen, we gotta get you doing something.
Right.
Like, hey, come on over here to Black Sheep.
Right.
Let's get listen, you know how to do this. You probably know how to do this better than me,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And so let me get some of your expertise and some of your knowledge, and let me learn from you in this creative space that I'm in to continue to develop. And I've just kind of tried my best to push you to distract you. How have you liked it over here, Black Sheep? Besides me getting on your nerves, outside of that.
Black Sheep has kept me very busy. It has created a space of family, and it has definitely been a good distraction. It has allowed me to tap into my creative side and do some things that I really enjoy doing, which is production and media. So it's been fun, and I met a lot of cool people. So yeah,
Yes.
it's real fun.
Shout out to the Black Sheep team. You
Yes,
guys are awesome. Okay.
yes.
Right here. All right. Listen, how important to you is speaking the truth or just being set free? How impactful is that for you, whether it's in this season you're in or just any other season that you've been through?
I had to learn how to do that. It's not something that came easy for me. I'm a very passive person for the most part. I don't like confrontation. I had to learn to become confrontational because certain situations need conflict or confronting,
Right.
should I say. And so I would say I had to find my voice, and everybody does. And you may find certain things that will help you find it. Writing, journaling helps you find your voice. It's a good way. Um, other than when you're upset, right? Because we all can give you a good cussing out.
Oh yeah.
That's
I
all of
call it a
us.
hot 16. Okay. Don't get this hot 16.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So we all can give that in the moment,
Yeah.
but to be able to express how you feel and confront hard situations, um, and feel like you really get a release from it, you have to definitely be able to do it from a rational perspective.
And so here at Black Sheep, again, one of the things that we've wanted to make sure that we create was a safe place for people to be able to express themselves. Not only that, we are in the phases of creating courses and things of that nature to help people come through their healing so we can actually do the work. How important do you think it is for people to actually have a safe place to release their trauma? Being able to just talk about and have a relatable space.
I think it's very important. It helps. You don't realize how your trauma affects everything you do.
Mm,
It affects every decision you make. It affects what you allow in and invite into your spaces. If you do not address that trauma, then it turns into other things that are toxic or negative,
right, right.
and you may not end up with the positive result that you want to get out of life if you don't really tap in and find ways. But also, representation is very important.
Yeah,
Being able to find your sheep,
yeah, yeah,
being able to find your sheep, being able to find your space is another one that is very important, because I can go into a space that's a safe space or a healing space, but if it's everybody is healing from something that's not relatable to what
yeah.
I'm trying to heal from,
Mm-hmm.
then I don't feel like I get fed from
Yeah.
that space. So it's important to find your flock.
Right, right. And that's very important. So I've known you for quite some time, and one of the things that was relatable for us is that you are a black sheep.
Very much so.
Right. So tell me this, do you feel like being a black sheep, was that forced upon you, or was it something that just kind of
I was a black sheep from the day I came from my mother's.
No, right.
No, I definitely think I probably came here black sheep for sure. If I had the problem, I was always rebellious. Even
Right.
as a child, I naturally had a rebellious spirit. If you told me to go left, I wanted to see what was right. So I was always curious, and so yes, I definitely naturally was a go against the grain type of person always.
Being a black sheep, did that affect your self-esteem, or how did you feel growing up, like just feeling different or isolated from other?
Definitely affected self-esteem. I grew up in Mississippi in the South, and so a lot of different variables, a lot of different factors played into my upbringing. Um, it was 9 of us that was raised pretty closely together, cousins, and my grandmother had most of us most of the time. But my grandmother suffered from alcoholism, and
Mm,
so you can imagine 9 children taking care of the alcoholic
yeah,
grandmother. So had some pretty traumatic things in
yeah,
that upbringing happen
yeah.
along the way. Um, one of them was she was intoxicated one day and she hit all 9 of us with her car.
Lord have mercy.
So I think experience, when you go through certain experiences, trauma becomes a normacy.
Mm,
And so I think a lot of us, we learned to just deal with it and we just kept moving through it as our normal. So even though things at home may have been as jacked up as they were, it was normal.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
normal,
yeah,
and so you didn't realize the toxic space that you were operating in or
yeah.
living in, or the environment, or and it was only in the escape
Mm-hmm.
of that environment. And some of us didn't leave, some of us don't leave, some of us
Yeah,
stay. But it's only when you remove yourself
yeah.
and look back.
You be like, what the? Right. And when we talk about that escape, guys, when you escape from a toxic situation, and you experience something what I would say refreshing and new, and you looking back, you be like, now how in the
How did
world?
I allow that?
Yeah, and but that's why it's really important when we talk about coming face to face with our trauma, being honest with ourselves, then the people around us and things of that nature. We really have to unlearn and relearn new behavior,
Oh yeah,
right?
definitely.
We get so caught up in what our old beliefs were, and sometimes our beliefs are not our own.
Most of the time, they're not.
Especially from I mean, if you think about it from a kid's perspective, like our parents tell us, you know, and so
Yeah, they write the belief system for
we
you.
inherit
The belief system.
we inherit some of these toxic behaviors, these toxic beliefs. And so it's very important that we actually allow ourselves to unlearn and relearn. And so when you say, talking about being in a toxic family, and I definitely can relate to that, all the toxic stuff I come from. It was a struggle and a trial to kind of come through all those things. How did you cope being a family of nine and, already feeling like a black sheep? Then you're a kid, having to take care of a grandmother. I'm pretty sure you felt a little different from all the rest of the kids, if not just from that.
Always.
How'd you
But
cope with that?
I did what the masses do. You don't beat them, you join them. I became a two-time convicted felon before I was 22. And yeah, I just stayed on there. I followed. I
Right.
followed the normacy of the toxic environment. I followed the normacy of the lack of exposure
Hmm.
to bigger than that small town in Mississippi.
Right.
And so I did what a lot of young people do today,
Hmm.
which is you just fall into the norm.
Right.
It was that slap on the wrist with that second conviction, and I ended up with 9 years of probation.
Mm.
And if it wasn't for that probation and that a decade almost, I did a year of house arrest and 9 years of probation.
Mm.
That was my sentence.
Wow.
And for me, house arrest, I'd rather you had locked me up. Truly. I mean, and I was in my early 20s,
Right.
but to have been able to be out on my own at 17
Yeah.
and then be 21, 22, and I can't go where I want to go.
Hmm.
I have to be in by a certain time, all the stipulations that came with house arrest. On top of the fact that my probation officer was definitely not the most forgiving person. He would show up all times of the night in my house, and it just felt like I was in a system that was waiting for me to mess up.
Wait
And
for
they
you to
cut and
fail.
they and definitely, like, at any point I operated in a sense of fear that I'm gonna go to jail for the rest of my life if I do one more
One
thing.
more thing. Yeah.
And so I moved away. That's what pushed the move away.
Yeah.
Once I was able to get to a point to where I could leave. I had to stay in the state, but I could move counties
Mm.
and still be on probation, because it was set up like if anybody came to my house and they had alcohol in their car and they was visiting me, it violated me. If they had a gun in their car, it violated me.
Yeah.
So it was just all these
Too
things.
much.
It was too much in somebody else's hands
Yeah.
that could control my freedom.
Hmm.
And so I moved an hour and a half away from everybody and everything that I knew. And I knew if you was coming to see me, you was gonna have to call me before you showed up. You wasn't gonna be able to just pop up on me,
Right. Right.
you know. And so that was the first experience of isolation. That was my first real experience of it because I moved away from family and friends and everybody and I was just in a whole new city, and all I did was work, home, and church.
Yeah.
And so that year sustained me though. That
Yeah.
year matured me.
Hmm.
Um, and so I can say I did what most do. I ended up on the wrong path before I was able to get on the right one.
Right. So when I'll take you back for a second, back to you said you made a comment about you being very passive,
Mhm.
and so how by being passive and also being a black sheep, how did that affect your personal relationships?
Oh man, a lot. Again, attracting, if you don't deal with trauma, you attracting all of the wrong people for all of the wrong reasons. Um, what was the question?
I never forget you.
What was the
So
how has it affected me?
yeah, right, right. So have you made any changes from just that experience to just kind of being better and just embracing who you are as a black sheep. Because a lot of people got when they hear black sheep, their mind immediately go to a negative place. And for me, black sheep, we a new era, okay? And we're gonna bring the positive side of embracing who we are. And it's just okay to be a black sheep. Jesus was a black sheep.
Mhm.
So again, have you embraced any changes to embrace like who you are?
Lots of changes. Again, because I was always the black sheep, I never really hid anything about myself or anybody. Either
Mm,
you accepted it or you didn't. Either you liked me or you didn't. I just didn't conform.
yeah.
Um, but one thing I did do was a lot of soul searching and self work. Um, I did a lot of counseling
Mm-hmm.
from that childhood trauma stuff. And so I started doing the work.
Oh yeah, that's
But I
important.
couldn't start doing the work until I spiritually had to have a connection first.
Mm-hmm.
And being raised the way that I was, it was
Mm-hmm.
conflict in who I was versus what my belief system said I was supposed to be.
Mm,
And so I struggled in my early, and a lot of the behaviors and a lot of those things was because I was all over the place, from finding myself emotionally to having sexual abuse going on at home, and it was just so many layers
mm-hmm.
that added to the toxicity that I was building on the inside of me. And
Okay.
so I really had to do a lot of self work, and just a lot of times, believe it or not, it's probably gonna sound crazy. I would literally have to get out of the shower and just stand in the mirror naked and try to figure out how to fall in love with what I saw in the mirror, because I
Wow.
never felt like I fit in any space.
Yeah.
And days I would just cry trying to figure that out
For you.
for myself.
Yeah.
Um, and again, going through certain traumas so young, I didn't really connect sexually anywhere when you think about like intimate relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have an attraction. I wasn't attracted to anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was difficult for me.
Mm-hmm.
Not really being able to associate I like boys or I like girls, or it was just kind of like I liked whoever liked me.
Right.
But
Right.
that was but it didn't make sense for me until I started doing that self work,
Right.
that was trauma talking, that was trauma speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had been, molested, you already had told me what I liked before
Yeah.
I even knew what I liked or even had the opportunity to figure out for myself. So everything was all the same.
Right.
It was no association with anything different.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, so that took a long time.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, I thought I may have been trans. I cut all my hair off,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought I was going to transition into a male. So I really went through all the phases. I call it the seven selves. Take seven different personality traits to make a healthy whole person, right?
Okay.
And I literally had to find, self love, self worth, self confidence, all of those things that built me as a whole healthy individual.
Right.
And so it
Wow.
was not easy.
That's a powerful testimony. And so when we talk about doing the work, guys, that is so important. I always encourage here on Black Sheep that I use therapy and God's guidance as a tool to unsilence me, to get the relief that I need to be able to walk in my truth, the confidence that I need to be able to walk in my truth. Amanda, what would you say to your younger self or a younger person who is afraid to do the work? And I say this because a lot of times we are afraid of the word therapy. I don't know why, but it is one of the best things on earth to me. Right? That's me. That's
I
that's
agree.
my belief, right?
I agree.
I feel like it has helped me transition in so many ways, and I mean, you can probably testify to that because
Oh,
she's
yeah.
been down some of these roads with me as well as I've been down some of those roads with her. But therapy is one of the best things that I feel that will really help a person if you allow yourself to just open your mind and unlearn, relearn, and be naked with yourself, be honest with yourself, and just receive some new, healthier information. How would you encourage someone if you were talking to your younger self, or if you were talking to a young person right now? How would you encourage them to be willing to be open minded about therapy?
I would say use therapy as a preventative measure.
Yeah,
A lot of times we only go to therapy to fix something.
yeah,
When we already have a problem, when it's
yeah,
already bad, or we're looking for validation, around how we feel
yeah.
around certain things. But what I learned through therapy is the prevention. It's the prevention before you need it, right? It's like knowing that the fire department is there before your house catches on fire.
Right,
You don't have to ask, who do I call if there's an emergency? 911 is available. Therapy is the same way if you look at it from that same concept. If you engage in therapy often and consistently, and you make it a practice, a routine, a habit, as a normacy, no different than if some people go to church every Sunday, some people should go to therapy every week, same way you go to church and
right,
put in that time. But therapy is it's dedication to self. It has nothing to do with anybody else but yourself
right,
at all.
right. And let me tell you something. If you're afraid of therapy, you can come see me, right? No, but find someone you can talk to,
Yes.
right? Find someone that you trust, right? That's very important, and that will be helpful to you to help trying to give you some guidance that you need. Um, because we all need someone to talk to. We don't realize by internalizing everything and being silent about everything, we only hurting ourselves. And
Yes.
so that's why we must release all the traumatic experiences and the thoughts and negativity that we hold inside. We have to be able to release those things. And so we talk about our relationship in Christ. Um, I was actually a witness when you got baptized, so I know you have a relationship with God.
Yes.
But when we talk about, you made a comment, you said most people only go to therapy when they want to fix things, and a lot of people want to come to their God when they want God to fix something.
Hmm.
But listen, let me tell you something. Just like she said, it's a preventable,
Hmm.
right? We have to stay connected to the source, guys. And so I would love to encourage someone that if you don't have a relationship with Christ, find one, right? Get one. If you don't know what that looks like for you, let's talk about it. Let's figure out what God is to you. I always tell people that, listen, I know the God that I serve. Okay. I won't push him on you, but I will pray for you, right? And I pray that he would open your ears and your heart to be willing to receive him. How has having a relationship with Christ helped you?
Oh my goodness. It is the only thing that has helped me.
Right.
Even now in what I'm going through, I had, in that post that I just talked about, I said, no words can help how I feel right now. I have to sit with this one, but I'm gonna go like what the old saints used to
Right.
say, but God.
Yes.
So I know God is the answer.
Yeah.
And I know that this season that I'm in, I'm being prepared
Yes.
for the next chapter. And I understand that weeping may endure for a night. And so I know
Hmm.
that this is temporary.
Yeah.
I know that He is going to replace everything that I lost.
Yeah.
And so I think it's either you believe in something or you fall for anything.
Yeah.
And in the world that we live in now, I believe that it is important for us to have a belief system in something. And especially if it's something that's positive and it motivates you and it encourages you to be a positive, healthy human here on this earth, then do it.
Yeah. Wow, that's great, man. I appreciate you coming out here and testifying and sharing your story. Listen, we're gonna have to continue to do the work though.
Definitely.
Okay. The work don't stop here just because we release ourselves here on Black Sheep. We have a lot of work behind the scenes that we still continue to do, right? And if we just stay consistent in that, we shall be set free. And I believe that wholeheartedly. So I hope I get to see you again from behind the scenes on Black Sheep.
You
But
will
listen,
definitely see me again. We'll
yeah.
definitely have to do part two of childhood trauma.
Oh yes, yes, because guess what? It's very important that we release our inner trauma. right?
Yes.
Release that inner child that we deal with on the inside of us. But listen, hey guys, I will see you next time on Black Sheep. And remember, the things that you are silent about are the things that I want to talk about. See you next time on Black Sheep. Cause we are black sheep. Oh, sorry.